Okay, so let's get started. First, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today for today's webinar, Take the Fastest Path to Node.js Application Development with Bitnami and Amazon Lightsail. I'm your host, Mavian Ruiz. I'm the Partner Marketing Manager at Bitnami. And with us today are our speakers, Mark Hinkle, who's the Executive Director of the Node.js Foundation, and Emily Kruger, who's the Senior Product Manager of Amazon Lightsail. And before we jump into anything, I'd just like to give a high-level agenda of what to expect. We will go over a Node.js overview. They had just had some survey results from their January survey setup, so we are going to go over a few data points from there. And then we'll jump into Amazon Lightsail, where Emily is going to go over the benefits of Amazon Lightsail and how to launch Node.js on Amazon Lightsail. And to wrap it all up, I'll go ahead and show you why Bitnami matters and how it's important when using Node.js, or how it can be important for you when using Node.js and Amazon Lightsail. And if you have any questions, feel free to put that in the chat client, and I'll go ahead and moderate those between the three of us at the end. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and let Mark get started with his presentation.
All right. As Mavian said, I'm the Executive Director of the Node.js Foundation, and the Node.js Foundation is the custodian of Node.js, which is emerging as a universal development framework for cloud-native and digital applications. We have over 8 million Node instances running every day and growing, and we're seeing a huge uptake in Node.js, not only in the US, but in China and Latin America. So just the background on Node.js, it was developed by a gentleman by the name of Ryan Dahl at a company called Joyent, which is now a wholly owned subsidiary of Samsung. And 2 years ago in April, it was transferred to the Node.js Foundation. Node.js is unique because it allows you to execute JavaScript on the server side with the help of the Chrome V8 engine. And it's continuing to see success in a variety of applications, from single-page applications on the web like at Airbnb, to multimedia sites like Netflix, to all the mobile traffic for Twitter. And if you'd like more information, you can visit nodejs.org. Here's just a overview of some of our users. And as I said, it does span all sorts of industries, from media like News Corp to PayPal. The variety of applications is very, very wide. And in general, we're seeing success based on the flexibility of Node.js and the huge user base or developer base of JavaScript developers out there. So, as we like to do, we do like to celebrate the success and the momentum around Node.js. As I've already mentioned, there's 8 million instances running every day. Over 1 billion Node packages are downloaded each week. On GitHub, we have 36,000 stars, which is an endorsement from other developers. We have 1,100 plus contributors to Node.js, and every day 400 new packages for Node.js come online. From 2015 to 2016, we saw our growth double, and we are still growing quite a bit every day. We also are seeing good industry recognition of Node.js. So Battery Ventures is a venture capital firm that created the Battery Open Source Software Index, or BOSS Index. And what they did was they created a set of criteria, from code velocity to job growth to media popularity and other discussions from Stack Overflow, to decide which open source projects were enterprise grade, and out of the 100 that they ranked, Node.js was ranked 4th. Linux, Git, and MySQL were the first 3, so we're in good company. One of the trends that is helping to propel Node.js is the increasing popularity of JavaScript. So Node.js allows you to execute JavaScript on the server side, and now it allows this huge user base of JavaScript developers to have the ability to develop end-to-end applications. If you look at the Stack Overflow survey from earlier this year, which surveyed 64,000 developers, JavaScript far and away was the #1 discussed programming language. And these graphs that you're going to see coming up, the green bars are from the Node.js community survey that was run from last November through January to show the trends within the Node.js community. Our community is continuing to increase their use of Node.js. JavaScript popularity was increasing as well. Some of the other popular languages like Java, .NET, Ruby, and PHP were declining in our community. So we're seeing a time where the utility of JavaScript and the large reusable code base is making JavaScript and Node.js an attractive alternative to some of these other scripting languages, and even some of the object-oriented ones as well. And Node.js's footprint is increasing worldwide. We see Latin America as our fastest growing geography, but China and the rest of Asia is very active in Node.js. So part of the reason that Node.js is so popular is because the developers that are using Node.js are seeing increases in productivity and therefore increases in developer satisfaction. Their costs are reducing. A lot of the code and tools around Node.js are free and open source. There are also commercial tools as well, but overall their development costs are going down while their application performance is going up. Overall, you see Node.js as a backend for backend development. It backends a lot of popular websites. It also can be used for full stack development. We see increases in other less traditional places like IoT and security for Node.js, but far and above anything else, we're seeing end-to-end web applications being developed with Node.js. We're also seeing the Node.js being integrated with other technologies. So databases, there's a very, very good selection of high quality JavaScript frameworks that can be used with Node.js. People are front-ending their applications with load balancers. Almost 50% of our users are deploying Node.js inside of containers. And here's sort of a breakdown of what technologies are being integrated with Node.js. So Express, Happy, Koa are all Node.js frameworks, but then the popular JavaScript frameworks like React and Angular are also being used, and that reusable code is allowing them to deploy applications much more quickly and come up with their proof of concepts. So overall, these are the primary use cases for Node.js. where companies are wanting to bridge their legacy systems to the cloud, they can use Node.js to actually integrate their old systems, exchange data, create exchange API data. They're building microservices. They're deploying in serverless frameworks, specifically Amazon Lambda and Google and Azure cloud functions. Mobile applications, because JavaScript is the language of the browser, and there is a large number of toolkits for developing mobile applications in JavaScript. Node.js is a logical fit there. We're also seeing a variety of other use cases, including the Internet of Things. So what I'd like to do is just give you a couple examples of these. So web application services. Once again, the frameworks are allowing organizations to deploy proof of concepts and get into production very quickly. There is a large number of modules available through the NPM registry that they can download and extend Node.js. And because JavaScript is a lightweight and well supported across platforms, it's a logical language to standardize on. And when it comes to examples of this, Lowe's Home Improvement. Lowe's Home Improvement has their Black Friday, so to speak, in the spring of every year when homeowners are starting their projects as the weather gets nicer. So for many years during their Black Friday weekend, they ended up having performance issues and really stressing their systems. After moving to Node.js, they were able to actually weather the record traffic without any noticeable performance hits, and it has a lot to do with the way that the architecture of Node.js and its asynchronous looping. Another common use case for Node.js is as API middleware. It's a natural fit for APIs because a lot of that data in the APIs is exposed as JSON objects. And a really good example of this would be Capital One. And Capital One is a financial services firm. There's a large financial services firm with a very, very diverse backend architecture. And by using Node.js as the orchestration layer, they're allowed to present all the information from those backend systems consistently to all the ways that people want to consume them in web, mobile applications, etc. Another good example of Node.js's flexibility is its ability to be used for cross-platform application delivery. Once again, just as I mentioned, the JavaScript across platforms is well supported. It easily consumes and processes JSON objects via REST APIs. And one of our most successful uses of that would be the collaboration platform Slack. And so Slack uses one of the popular frameworks. They use Electron, which was developed at GitHub, and that allows Slack to develop a cross-platform application that companies and other organizations can use to collaborate with without having to do a lot of platform-specific development. Another great application that lends itself to mobile is what they commonly refer to as a single-page application. These are applications that actually consume data and combine it on a single page. In the past, you may have seen pages that used Ajax to do this. This is sort of the the more modern approach to these dynamic AJAX pages. And one of the best examples there is Airbnb. So they wanted to be able to create pages on the fly that actually rendered HTML, but they still wanted all the abilities to dynamically query data. Because they could do that on the server side and then display fully formed HTML pages, those fully formed HTML pages were also search engine friendly. So it was a big deal for Airbnb to be able to index, have their pages indexed, but still have them dynamically updated. Node.js gave them that ability. So finally, just to let you know why Node.js exists and that it will be sustainable is there is a foundation backed by some of the largest companies in the world under a model that is very effective at the Linux Foundation. So the Linux Foundation is the shepherd of Linux, but they also do things like Cloud Native, which is the home of Kubernetes, the container orchestration layer, automotive grade Linux, which is the Linux that will be running in the majority of automobiles in the future, Hyperledger, which is the blockchain technology that is powering shared ledger across the web. And the reason this is important is because it provides a neutral home for technology to live, that technical decisions can be made by merit, but still supported by the financial resources of the commercial community. And there's a number of benefits, but overall, the thing that you should take away is that there is a strong enterprise and vendor support around Node.js, so it'll be around for a long time. As you can see, leaders in the industry from IBM, Microsoft, Red Hat, et cetera, are all supporting Node.js. So our conference is going on October 4th through 6th in Vancouver. You're invited. We would love to see you there if you want to learn more about Node.js, or you can visit our website at nodejs.org. Thank you very much.
Great, Mark. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the presentation over to Emily, and she's going to tie in how you can use Node.js on Amazon Lightsail.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. And thanks, Mark. That was really interesting information. I really liked a lot of that research. I hadn't seen that before. So we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about Amazon Lightsail. And Amazon Lightsail is really, kind of unlike a number of the large companies that are awesome examples of using Node.js. Lightsail is intended for customers, individual developers, maybe many people who are on this call who are looking to have an easy way to launch a virtual private server and play with the technology like Node.js. And be able to maybe launch simple applications based on it or create test environments. So for a lot of the very large customers using Node.js to build their applications, they're of course deploying on full AWS. But Lightsail specifically is meant to be a very simple way to get started with low predictable pricing so that you can have an environment, you can play with it or test a small application, push it to production and really know what to expect and what from a pricing perspective and know that it's going to be something very easy to maintain and set up. So Lightsail bundles together a number of different resources, compute, SSD-based storage, data transfer, static IP, and DNS management, et cetera, into one bundle. And we have a number of fully configured images that you can deploy on Lightsail, and I'll show you what that looks like at the demo at the end of this couple of slides I have here. But you can basically choose a server image and then deploy your server with just a few clicks, which makes it, of course, very easy to use. And Node.js is one of those applications. I mentioned the low predictable price. We have a very easy to use console that's available all around the world. So we're available in 10 regions now worldwide. And you also have the ability to scale your resources over time and scale your application over time using services that are already available in AWS, even if you choose to stay on sort of the more simple, easy to use infrastructure with Amazon Lightsail. And I'll go through that in a little bit more detail in just a few slides. And then also we have, our own CLI, if for any of you who'd rather do things, more programmatically as opposed to using the actual console. So for Node.js specifically, I mentioned, the easy to use. You can launch and get started with just a few clicks and be able to have your environment up and running. But you also are able to have that in a very secure environment. So of course, Lightsail being based on all AWS infrastructure is very secure, very reliable. We have a lot of easy to use firewall and port management tools that are built into the Lightsail console, so you can open and close those ports and make sure that your application is more secure. And then versus a shared environment, that obviously a virtual machine is going to have you be isolated from any abuse from other users that may be in your environment or from outside attacks in a much more effective way. It's super easy to use, and then you can also grow over time. So even if you're going to start with just a small individual server, you're able to scale that into multi-server environments, add external resources, et cetera. So we'll go through this in the demo, but really there's only 5 steps, and they're all pretty fast clicks in order to have your Node.js instance running on Amazon Lightsail. So you're going to choose where you want it based, choose the application image for Node.js, choose how big of a server you want, name your server, and then you click create and the server is ready for you in really just about a minute or so. And then as you grow, maybe some of you will be starting off something small and then growing all the way up to AWS, and you also have a number of intermediate other cloud platform as well, but a bunch of individual other steps you can have in between. For instance, you can actually grow your server over time, so you can start off with a very small, low resource server and scale it up to a larger plan within Lightsail. You can connect multiple instances together in Lightsail. You are able to put your instances in multiple availability zones in order to create redundancy between those applications, make sure that they're always high availability and up and running. And then you're also able to connect in other AWS services. So for those of you who are familiar with AWS, we have this concept called a virtual private cloud. So sort of the container of resources around your AWS resources called a VPC. So with AWS and Lightsail, you're able to connect your VPCs and launch more complicated resources or other resources inside of the AWS console, for instance, like our relational database service in order to have an external database, or you could connect over, with CloudFront, which is our CDN service. So there's a lot of ways to be able to scale and grow your Lightsail instances, even if you're starting off with something that's relatively simple. So I'm going to give you guys a quick demo because it's a little easier to visualize what I'm talking about by seeing it live. End the show here and open up the window. So this is the Lightsail management console, and I'm here sort of on our opening dashboard screen. You can see I already have a couple of applications and resources that are running in my account. So if I wanted to create a new Node.js instance, create instance button, and you can go in and you could choose your region. If you're from other areas in the world, we'll choose what we think is closest to you, but you may choose a different data center if you want. So this is automatically chosen Ohio because it knows that that's the closest to where I am right now in New York. Then you can go down and you can choose a wide range of instance images. So today, of course, we're going to try with Node.js, and all of these apps are powered by Bitnami. So Maven's next going to talk to you about really the advantages of using Bitnami images and why that they're a great choice to be able to launch your instance more easily. So we're very happy to be partnering with Bitnami on all of these images. You can optionally add launch scripts here or add your own key pair. So we by default assign a SSH key pair to you and store it on your behalf, so you don't have to worry about any of the complexities of key management. You can choose how big of a plan you want. So I'm going to take a $10 a month plan. And here you can see the sort of the flat predictable pricing. So all of these plans cannot exceed the cost that they are here unless you were to use a really very large amount of data transfer. So data transfer amount that's bundled for free is included in each of these plans at the bottom. So that would really be the only way that you could exceed, a $10 a month plan. So I'm going to name this. We'll name it Bitnami Webinar, if I can spell. All right, now we're in the process of setting up that server. So while that is going to set up in the next minute or so, I'll go into an existing Node app that I have running already. And so what you can see here is that we have the ability for you to one-click SSH into your server and be able to then very quickly access the terminal window, which is a really useful tool. Wait for it to connect there. Here you can see the Bitnami welcome message for that server. You also have the ability to see metrics. This is a new server I spun up today, so I'm just going to flip to another screen and show you sort of what these metrics look like. So you can see how much CPU you use. You're able to see network in and out of your server over time, and then a number of failures. And this is a healthy server, so you can see there haven't been any failures, luckily, but you're able to track those and see if they've occurred. You can also go in and you can manage networking. So I mentioned before we have a very simple port management and firewall management that's here. So you're able to add and edit your own roles and open and close ports as you see fit as you're building out your application. We also assign, we have a private IP for internal networking and then a public IP for each server, but these will change if you end up rebooting. So we have the ability for you to have a static IP. So this one already has a static IP attached. I don't want to detach it. But if you assign a static IP to your instance, you'll be able to know that that IP is going to stay constant no matter what. You can also do snapshotting and backups for your instance. There's a simple log to say the things that we've done to this instance over time. And then, of course, you can delete it. So to go into here, you can see we've got our webinar one up and running. I can SSH in directly from this button and also have some other simple management from the screen here. And then I'm also able to manage DNS zones and from within the console. So we have our own simple DNS management here. I've already got this Node Lightsail A record configured from earlier. So you can see that this is the instance that we're running on the IP address, and that's up and running, and as well as the DNS record is pointing to the same place. So in either case, it's leading you to this friendly welcome screen and ready to, from Bitnami, and ready to get your own code in there and up and running. So that's really about it. It's a really very simple, scaled down interface to make it very straightforward for you to be able to run applications, run your Node.js application, and not really have to worry and think about the infrastructure too much, be focused more on the coding and building out a really cool application. So Maven, I'm going to pass back to you.
Great, thank you. And thanks for mentioning Bitnami. I think you might have taken away a bit of my own presentation.
Sorry.
No worries. All right, so just kind of want to tie in about who Bitnami is and how we come into play with Node.js and Amazon Lightsail. So for those that might not be familiar, Bitnami is the leading provider of package applications for any platform. So we want to make it as simple as possible for anyone to quickly launch server applications on the platform of their choice. So you're able to actually launch Bitnami applications, whether it's in the cloud with Amazon Lightsail or regularly on AWS, even to locally with native installers, and we even package them into containers as well. And we automate this build and release process for over 140 applications and development stacks. So not only do we provide all of these this all of our benefits and values to Node.js, but you can also get them within amongst of many other open source applications. And our users are actually deploying all of our applications over 1 million times per month. So you know that they're trusted applications that are used redundantly as well. So what does Bitnami do? So at the core of the Bitnami catalog is an automation platform that manages the software lifecycle by building these software stacks from their core dependencies. And then we take all of those core dependencies, bundle them, package them, and we deploy them in all different formats, from local or in the cloud, like I had mentioned earlier. And then we maintain those, so that way our users don't have to. Once an update comes available or a security vulnerability comes available, we monitor for those, so that way we can then start this process all over again. So Bitnami provides optimized, secure, and ready-to-run applications. So if there's 3 things you remember today about Bitnami, we build pre-configured applications that are ready to run. We deploy those for you in any format: VMs, containers, container images, Kubernetes templates, local installers, and we optimize those for leading cloud providers. So you can also find our applications amongst our other cloud partners as well. And then we maintain those, like I had mentioned, for any updates or security vulnerabilities. So why should you use Node.js from Bitnami? So you'll receive all those benefits. You'll receive a complete stack that's cloud optimized, and that can run anywhere. So if you are beginning and you want to test and develop locally, and then you want to bring it to the cloud, you can expect that same experience within any environment, so that way you don't have any surprises. And just to kind of retouch on what Emily was mentioning, Bitnami on AWS, you're either able to find our applications within the marketplace, where you can choose from over 140 of those applications, or if you're launching from Amazon Lightsail, we package the 10 application plus OS options in Lightsail as well. So we provide that same click to deploy experiences from there. So if you're looking to get started with Bitnami and Lightsail and Node.js, these are a few links that you can start to get to look at. I will be sending these out in an email summary, along with a recording and the slides as well. So that brings us to Q&A. So I know there were a few questions that were asked during the presentations that I'd like to get to you guys. Let me bring those up. So Mark, one person was asking kind of what are the basics that somebody might need to know in order to start using Node.js? So what computer knowledge should he have prior to using it?
Well, JavaScript skills would be one of the obvious things to know, but the Node.js command line and some other things are good things to learn, and one of the best resources for that is the open source workshops and tutorials that are put on by nodeschool.io, and that would give you a good overview of what you need to know, and a free self-paced way to learn, as well as in-person workshops.
Cool. And then I think, Emily, I have a couple questions for you. Let me bring that up. Okay. Is there a way to view your Lightsail instances in the EC2 console?
So no, all of your Lightsail instances are basically isolated from the AWS console. And that makes it possible so that you can't go in and necessarily mess up any of the underlying resources if you were to see them inside of AWS. So if they're all accessible from the AWS or from the Lightsail console, not from the AWS console.
Okay, and then I think this one's in regards to pricing. Do we get charged by Bitnami for using their images on Lightsail, and how do we set up image backup? So I can take the first question, Emily.
Sure.
So Bitnami is free of charge, so no matter where you deploy it, all of our applications are free, and you're only going to be paying for any compute costs. So any EC2 costs or whatever Amazon Lightsail, the pricing that Emily showed, you're able to estimate how much you're going to be using prior to deploying. And then if you want to take that second question, Emily, how do we set up image backup?
Sure. So you can set up image backups by taking a snapshot of the instance. It's very straightforward. So those and snapshots are billed at a much slower rate than the actual instance. They're 5 cents per gigabyte per month.
Great. And then, there's a few questions. Okay. Mark, this is going back to trying to get to the basics of Node.js. They're asking if you could recommend any cookbooks or any tutorials to start testing the Node.js platform.
So the tutorials are available at nodeschool.io. As far as cookbooks, I'm not sure that I understand that question, other than you could download and install Node in a Lightsail instance using Bitnami and play around with it there.
Okay. And then one more question for you, Mark, again. He says, I've read that Node.js works best with NoSQL databases. Will Node.js work well with relational databases? If so, what providers do you recommend for a MySQL database?
So I think that it's the use cases that are popular are probably things like Mongo, but we have all relational databases will work as well. And if you, in my slides, I think we showed that MySQL was the 4th most popular database, and 41% of our users who use databases are using MySQL, so that would be a good place to start.
Great. And then I'm going to ask one last question before we run over on time, and this one's for Emily. Lightsail seems like a lighter version of AWS. How do we decide whether to use Lightsail or AWS?
It's a great question. So Lightsail is for simple web workloads like a website or a web application, and we recommend that you would look at using EC2 instead if you're going to be, you know that you're going to be launching dozens of servers on your application. If you need very specific types of computing power, so if you needed, for instance, memory optimized compute instance types, or anything else, any of the wide variety of EC2 instance types that we have. Lightsail is using relatively simple burstable instance types that have a fixed amount of resources. So any of those sort of more complicated computing needs or larger applications, we definitely recommend that would be something that you would want to go to EC2 for. Something we're working on right now is to make that be a very smooth pathway in between Lightsail to AWS, so that you could start one place, and if you felt like you were going to have more complicated needs in the future, that we would provide a transition. So that's something we're working on right now to make the decision process easier in the future.
Great. That actually addresses somebody else's question as well. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the webinar. I want to thank you, Emily and Mark, for participating and speaking about Node.js today. And I want to thank our attendees. I hope you guys learned what you wanted to learn today, and I hope to see you at the next Bitnami webinar.